Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another horror movie review, and this time we're going to be talking about Dog Soldiers, which came out in 2002 and stars Kevin McKidd, Pertwee, and Liam Cunningham, as it takes place during a routine nighttime training mission in the Scottish Highlands. A small squad of British soldiers expected to rendezvous with a special ops unit instead find a bloody massacre with a sole survivor. The savage attackers of the special ops team return, and the men are rescued by Megan, a zoologist who identifies what hunts them as werewolves. Without transport or communications, the group is forced to retreat to a farmhouse to wait for the full moon to disappear at dawn.
Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
Dog Soldiers is a movie I should have talked about quite some time ago. I have the regular Blu-ray here. Definitely a movie worth owning on Blu-ray, by the way. And there's also this collector's edition version of it. It's kind of that artwork style cover that certain releases get. From different companies, whether it's Shout, Scream Factory, or just different ones like that, you know what I mean. But yeah, Dog Soldiers is one I've been meaning to talk about for quite some time. It's honestly one of my very favorite werewolf movies. And you guys know, if you know me at all, you know horror is still my favorite movie genre. I might have a love for action and martial arts and stuff like that, but when it comes down to it, horror is still my favorite genre. Werewolves have always been one of my very favorite subgenres of horror. I used to have nightmares about werewolves as a kid all the time, almost every night, until I finally started watching some of the movies in full, and I thought, okay, they're terrifying. I'd definitely be shredded to bits if I had encountered a real one, right? But at the same time, they're pretty cool, and so that's when it took off, and kind of contributed to my horror fascination over the years. And to me, this is a film I enjoy more than some of maybe some of the more obvious well-looked upon werewolf horror movies out there. I mean, we can all have our favorites and our preferences and stuff like that. But if you guys seen my review of An American Werewolf in London, I think it has its merits, but I'm not full on with it like some people are. Same thing with a movie like The Howling. I've warmed up to An American Werewolf in London a little bit more for what it brings to it. But The Howling especially, I just didn't care for too much, minus the transformation scene. And with this one, this kind of falls in line with my very favorites for werewolf movies personally. My favorite is always going to be Ginger Snaps. Of course, it starred Catherine Isabel, my all-time favorite actress for years now. And The Wolfman, the 2010 remake, has always been a severely underrated and overlooked movie to me. Maybe my favorite werewolf design. And even things like Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman, and I could go on and on about all the werewolf movies I've seen. But along with Ginger Snaps and The Wolfman, Dog Soldiers is probably within my 3 or 5 favorite werewolf movies ever, of all the ones we've gotten over the decades. And it's directed by Neil Marshall, who also directed The Descent, which I did review some time ago on this channel. He also directed the new Hellboy, which I liked qualities of it for sure, and David Harbour's performance. But Neil Marshall definitely seems to be at his best and at home when he does horror-based movies like this. because both this and The Descent were very, very good, despite, lesser budget or more kind of contained location. He just aced it with that. And that's one of the best things about this movie is the secluded location. You have the woods, it's very gray, it develops a really, really nice atmosphere. This feels very empty, very hollow. Yet it feels, real and alive. And then eventually, of course, they are at this kind of normal seeming, but kind of broken down, type of house in the middle of the woods. And you just have that secluded walls closing and feeling of that, and it's just about perfect. But with that, we're going to talk about the cast. I was going to get into my gripes with it, but I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, I suppose. But we do have Liam Cunningham as that surviving agent they find in the woods that survived, who Kevin McKidd's character has a history with. And sort of something going on under the surface with him, about what he knows about what's going on in the woods. Of course, a lot of us will recognize him as Davos from Game of Thrones these days. You also have Sean Pertwee as one of the officers, in charge of McKidd and the other soldiers. A lot of people will know him as Alfred from the TV show Gotham these days. And then Kevin McKidd himself, sort of becomes our protagonist in the movie. And he handles it a lot better than you'd expect. I mean, I haven't seen the movie in years, so I'd always remember, oh yeah, Sean Pertwee was in that one, wasn't he? Because I watched it with my dad years ago, and I know I always liked it, but I just rewatched it with my girlfriend again and such. And watching again, Kevin McKidd does a pretty solid job. I think he holds up a lot better than you would have expected. He's not the biggest name in the movie, but he works, and just as much as his character takes on as the movie goes along, it's handled pretty nicely. And then you also have a character named Megan, played by Emma Cleesby, and I quite liked her as well. I think she's another actress or another one of them who gives a performance above what may be expected. And initially, her place in the film can feel a little bit tacked on, but she definitely contributes more to the plot and the proceedings than you initially realize, or at least lends her own hand and such. So I really liked her in the movie as well. And now my only issue, well, before we go into my issues again, hold off on that a second. Again, I talked about just the atmosphere and the setting and location and just the general premise, really, how good that was. It does, again, have suspense to it. It's not like a jump scare fest necessarily, although there are some, of course, typical. But it, has a good amount of violence to it as well, and it still knows how to build a mood and everything, so a lot of those jump scares can be forgiven. And it's still very, very violent. There's a couple pretty brutal deaths. If you're like me and you're desensitized to it by now, it might not be too bad. But it's still pretty satisfying on that end, I think. It's definitely not tame or forgiving necessarily at that, which I think is appropriate, because there are werewolves stacking soldiers in a house. So how do you think that's going to look? One in particular, we see a decapitation is probably the best in the movie. And now on to my only nitpicks or gripe with the film, and it's something I've again kind of warmed up to more over the years as I've seen it more often and thought about it. But it's the werewolf design, which is unfortunate because a lot of work was put into this. I mean, the movie is all completely practical effects, makeup, everything like that. Very, very little CG used, and you can't even tell where they would have used it. I mean, the werewolves are all practical effects. It could have been one of those things. I'm not sure exactly where they did, but it could have been one of those things just fixing minor little details, even about the shots or something like that. I don't know. But rather insignificant whenever they did use it or wherever they did. But the werewolves themselves, you can tell they're made well. It's just the design that I didn't necessarily care for. Just kind of the big wolf head sort of thing going on. I mean, I like the body, just how lanky and lean and that sort of approach to it I like. But it's just the wolf head. I don't know. I'm more of a Wolfman guy myself, so I don't really like this the full wolf thing. It makes them feel like too much wolf and not enough man. They're supposed to be wolfmen, right? I don't know. Werewolves, I don't know. You could get technical about it. But it's just not my preferred approach to what a werewolf should look like. But I used to be more annoyed by it than I am now, and it sort of works. They definitely look like they fit with the kind of movie they're in, or the story they're in, so it doesn't really take away from it for me anymore. I just honestly would have preferred it, to be a bit different if I could. But since I can't, I roll with it. Like I said, this is easily one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time, for sure. I can't really think of much wrong with it. I'm trying to think of more. It's not very long. It's let's see, it's not telling me how long it is. I guess I could just look on the back of the Blu-ray, right? Which would say 105 minutes, so like an hour and 45, not very long at all. It has a really good pacing to it. It's fast, to the point. Yet it feels like it has a patience to it as well. And I think Neil Marshall just did such a nice job with it. There's a lot of cool facts and in-depth analysis of the film on like the IMDb trivia if you guys want to go to that. So between this and The Descent, it's kind of hard to pick between the two, but of course, me being a werewolf fan I am, I think I'd have to go with Dog Soldiers here. We're both very good films. And they've been picking up more steam over the years, and I notice more people bringing them up than before, but I still feel like they're a bit overlooked, compared to the other bigger genre films. Let me know what you guys thought about this one. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.